Hello everyone, I am Virgil Evans.
Hi Virgil.
I'm a web developer, podcaster, I do video and audio, I also make music, and I'm a big fan of the internet, as with all of us here, because we're podcasters. Yeah, so this is all about peer-to-peer distribution and alternative forms of sharing. I put sharing music, but it should say sharing media. In this case, for me, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's media. Over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of information out there in the news about peer-to-peer networking, BitTorrents, and stuff like that. Very negative news. And the part that's funny is if you have content that you're trying to put out there that you want to monetize right away, like you want to sell DVDs or sell CDs or sell content, and that it's on the torrents. But for the rest of us, like podcasters who put stuff out for free, it's better that we're out there. So if you have a podcast and if you have content that you're comfortable sharing to an audience for free, the best thing you can do is try and get it out there as far as it can go in as convenient as possible a way for people to discover. There's been talk about the social media, about using Twitter, about using blogs, RSS feeds, all that for ways of people finding out, announcing your content, doing link shares and stuff like that. That's great if people are actively looking for it. But sometimes people just browse for content. They see something on the net, or they get into Google and they do a little search, and they might find your name, they might not find your name, they might browse for your content and not know who you are, but see a media file. And what you want to do is try and present as wide a distribution for people to discover. Peer-to-peer networking, just so you guys understand, right now, at any 1 minute, there's over 1 million people who are using the peer-to-peer networks, who are torrenting files. 1 million people. And if even 2% of them knew who you were or were searching for that type of content, it might, for a podcaster who's working with smaller numbers, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that have access to it. It's really cool. So how do you do it? So there are two ways that you can do this experience. Am I standing away?
Yeah.
So there are two ways you can do this experience. Of course, you can hunt for communities to work in, like if there's blogs or forums or environments that, of course, if there's a blog, you do a blog post, hey, I just did this podcast on whatever. It's really neat. You should check it out. There's always the media space of people who do similar content. Sometimes if you know another site, like what I like to do is I regularly search for blogs that are in my topic sphere and send emails to the admins and talk to them about, hey, I do this stuff, you do this stuff. Like if you think it's cool, maybe we can share posts or come to a relationship, which is really cool. And the most important thing is don't look for the hard road. Like last year, in the podcasting experience, a lot of people jump in and want to work really hard on doing everything. They want to get the best mic, they want to spend the most money, they want to get the most market share, whatever. The secret is, if you can put it out there, and it's just out there, the people who discover it will want it, will find it, will enjoy it. Otherwise, the more work you put in, the less return you're going to get. A good example, I want this whole thing with Pirate Bay. So I wanted to understand, who is Pirate Bay in the world of torrents? Is this a site that I should get my files onto? Because people are using it to discover files. Maybe I should get my content on that site. So I went into the Alexa site, and I typed in Pirate Bay, I typed in Mininova, IsoHunt, and a number of different torrent sites that I thought were in that same sphere. Pirate Bay wasn't even in the top 100. It's the one that's getting the dominant news, but the top site right now in the torrent environment is Mininova. And asking my friends and asking people, hey, if you go to look for a television show or a series or whatever, where do you look? Mininova or IsoHunt. Some people, maybe in different parts of on the planet, Pirate Bay has more market share. And we're just talking torrent sites, but it doesn't have to do with just torrent sites. Any type of site.
Can you define torrent site?
A torrent aggregator site is a search engine site similar to Google or Yahoo, except instead of looking for blog and like written content on the net, they look for these certain torrent files, which are seeder files that a BitTorrent client would use to then start collecting and pooling content from various people hosting torrent files, or torrents, peer-to-peer files.
Sorry, can I get you to stand a bit? Just the projector.
So, but the most important thing is if you're looking to distribute, the main thing is, besides the fact this is mostly about peer-to-peer networking and torrenting, the main thing is to try and get outside of the environment that you would normally use to distribute your content and discover your audience. I do a lot of stuff with electronic music, so I thought, hey, you know what? I go to these shows all the time and talk to artists and talk to people who are fans of music. Why don't I take some of my blog posts and some of my podcasts and just write out what they're about, put them in a little document, staple it together, and give it out as a free magazine. I don't have any here today. I have some tomorrow. I have to dig them up. I don't know where they are. But by doing that, I got my stuff outside of my normal market or audience, which is on the internet, and into a group of people who might not have discovered my podcast, but discovered it because they were at an event that I enjoy. And it's like, so whatever your audience, if your audience is into that, and you can find a way to engage them. But that's a whole other. That could be a whole other thing. We're talking about peer-to-peer networking and how to use it to share your stuff. So first of all, spam is bad, and social engineering is bad. So like if you, so if it doesn't fit, like sometimes you'll have a file that you think is like, you'll have your podcast, it's your content, you're very passionate about it, and you'll want to upload it somewhere or you'll want to share it somewhere, and they'll say, this doesn't fit with our site, this doesn't fit with what we're doing, we are whatever, please take it down, or they'll remove it or whatever. Don't insist. Because it just like a podcast or anything on the internet is permission based. You know, you click on it and download it. Someone is permissioned that they want to receive it. It doesn't make sense to try and force your content everywhere else on the net that it might not belong. And in getting a wider audience or distributing your stuff to a wider audience, sometimes you'll put it in an environment where someone might not enjoy it. And trying to figure out ways to get your stuff into an environment where it might not make sense doesn't make sense. For us, it seems pretty obvious, but there are some people who might make riskier content or content that's not socially regularly acceptable, and they'll want to, you know, they feel like it's their right to be on those sites. But it's bad. But I want to talk about why peer-to-peer is awesome, which is the other side of it. Now, we all have websites. We all have our content in a file on the net that people can download. It's at one location. The peer-to-peer environment is not one location. So imagine all of us have change in our pockets. Between all of us, we probably have $1. But imagine none of us had more than, say, 20 cents. But between all of us, we have $1. And it's the same with the files. So a file for your podcast might reside partially on your computer, partially on someone else's computer. It's just on the net, and over time, as more people start aggregating and clicking on that file, more people start downloading. Eventually, you get the whole file, but it decentralizes it, and it takes the load off your server. So that way, you can do, again, put it to a wider audience, put it to a larger environment, and not really have to worry about the back-end load. They're at any one time on the net. If you go onto any of the torrent engines, it shows how many users are accessible. It literally is. I've never seen it dip below about 1,300,000 people. It's usually around that. It's very weird. I think it's awesome. So the part that now this is where the landscape changed. I'm kind of zipping through this because I want to get to questions because it's more important to answer questions rather than talk. The landscape has changed with peer-to-peer networking. A year ago, everybody was afraid to host files because they thought, well, if I had a server that allowed people to host peer-to-peer torrent files, which is what they are, torrent files, if I allowed them to host it, they're going to put up porn, they're going to put up, licensed material, it's going to be issues. This, over the last, I'd say, year to 6 months, two main sites that have come up have been Mininova and Views. Those two sites, you can take your podcast or your file, upload it to their server, they'll host it, and disseminate it into the peer-to-peer network, which is great, because it's off your server, and it's in that network for people to discover, which is awesome. Awesome. I love it. And Mininova is number 54 out of the top 500 sites. It is the #1 site for peer-to-peer searching. I can't stress enough. I put up, as an experiment, for PodCamp, I wanted to try, I have a free album that I did of music. I made it, I put it up there like last year. But I thought just for an attempt, I repackaged it and put it up on Mininova. Because I got a licensed account, so you have to have an account to do that. And then once I had an account, it's featured on their main page. The first day, I had 800 people download that file. That's more than I've ever had for. Like I'll be honest. I have an electronic music podcast. I'm lucky if I get 10 people a week who watch one of my videos. It's exciting, but the reality is I know that I'm not dominant. But to have, I put it up, 800 people suddenly download it in one day. What the? I'm doing something right, and I'm getting it to people who probably are going to like it. And there are other ways that you can track that, and I do a lot of, like, if I put a file up on there, I'll go back to Google a couple days later, and I'll do a Google search to see on that file name what other torrent sites have gone and captured the RSS feed or scraped it and reposted the links. And you'd be surprised. Like within a week, I went from my Google juice from being like maybe 2 or 3 pages on this very particular phrase, Virgil Evans LX7 promo release, which was a very short Google listing, to something that was over 10 pages deep, which is, to me, exciting, very unusual, and not easy to do. And they're all legitimate links, which is really cool. But the important thing is, both with Mininova and Views, you have to get an account. You get an account, you put your media on, you're doing the same thing for your blog, you're doing the same thing to get your media in your own environment. Just replicate the process onto those environments, and it gets out there. Yes?
In terms of when you get an account, if you sign up, does it pay to use your real name, your website name?
Well, I'm very, because this is stuff that I do that I want to be responsible for, I'm very comfortable using my real name. I'm very comfortable using my real site. For some people who are into social branding or media branding or web branding, I'm comfortable being exposed as this is my stuff, so I use my name. But whatever works for your content, like maybe your content might not be recognized by your name, but you have a site or the name of your show or whatever that you want to use, whatever feels comfortable. But you have to have an account. You have to be a registered user. And you have to be comfortable sharing as a registered person.
It's free to join.
And it's free to join both of those, and both of those will get you tracked, or will get your stuff moved around. So, of course, yes?
I've got a question. Like, if when you put your, say, media or whatever up there, can you get the stats as well? Like, how many?
Yes, you can. And both Views and Mininova, when you upload your content, they have a page that has has your name, your content, all that, and it has the number of downloads. It also has a way. Not so much with Mininova, but with Views, you can give the thumbs up or the thumbs down, or rate it out of 10. And so you can see over time what people rate. With Mininova, which is really cool, let me just go back to that slide, even though there's nothing there, but with Mininova, what's really neat is Mininova allows for comments, and it also allows for people to say thank you without having to comment. And this is like the forefront of where we're going with media. Like, I put my stuff up there, and it's a bit of a sidetrack, but I put my stuff up there. And there are guys in Detroit who make electronic music, like mainstream guys who are big, who travel and do that. They were asking their friends, going, "Oh, I was on a torrent site and I saw Virgil's album, and like, did it get leaked? How did it end up there?" And they didn't ask me. They asked these other people who in the social scene, and then eventually got back to me. They're like, "How did your stuff get up there?" And these are people who are in the industry of making media. They didn't know. Yeah.
What else are these sites used for other than music? Like
people use them for movies.
Okay.
People use them for files. You can use it to distribute anything.
Yeah, so is it mostly music traffic, or
No.
It's all over the place?
It's all over the place. In fact, if you wanted to get any television show, you could go to any of these torrent sites. Maybe not Views, Mininova, ISO Hunt, or Pirates Bay, or Torrent Reactor, and type in the name of that television show and download the whole season. Probably, for free. Because someone has been passionate enough, they collected it, they're hosting it on their hard drive, they've made it available to the network, and people are sharing it.
Is that legal?
It's not legal.
No.
Because it's copyright material. But this is the thing.
Well, I have to tell you that I really have a objection to copyright.
I agree. I totally
Of artistic content. So
I totally agree.
Really know the sort of recognized in a place to steal stuff.
No, they don't.
I wouldn't want to do that.
And I agree. As a featured person, and this is what we're seeing in the shakedown in the network peer-to-peer networking environment. The shakedown is that they are not profiling or exposing as conveniently copyrighted material. They're making Mininova has a featured section of people who are putting up vetted. They're vetting themselves, saying this is my content. There is copyright material out there, but that's like saying, people get into car accidents. I'm going to say no to cars. It's a technology. You can't hate a technology. You can hate that people use technology poorly, but there's two ways you can beat it. You can either shut it down or you use the technology properly, and that's what this is about.
I don't think Virgil is advocating that you...
Yeah, I'm not advocating at all that people should share files that are copyright. I'm not into copyright infringement. I make music. Some of what I do is about, a packaged product that someone has to buy. But the reality is, in the internet, there is a technology that allows people to share their stuff to a larger audience, and that's what this is about. It's trying to figure out how to get it to a larger audience who is looking to find that kind of content, or looking to stumble onto that kind of content, which is important. And the big differentiator between that, by the way, which is a great lead-in, is you have to put Creative Commons. If you're going to do anything with your file and put it into the torrent environment, there are three things you have to have. Of course, you have to have your media. I would highly suggest having a text file or some kind of comment section that talks about where they can find your stuff on your website to validate who you are and what you do. And then definitely some kind of Creative Commons information so that they know that this is content that is vetted, that is free, that you're looking to share and expose in that environment. Important. Most important thing. Because of that exact argument is why that is so important to include.
It's also important to include when you have aggregators who decide to take your content and to dissect it. I have that with a company called Grasper, who gives the user the opportunity to take your video and dissect it and remash it and then redistribute it without your knowledge. So I had to go after them and go, if you read the whole video and watch the end, there's my Creative Commons that says, no derivative works, take it down. And I'm like, well, we found it on the net. Well, that's great. Take it down because, one, you're serving a new file of it, it's derivative work, and you're breaking it up, which again is a derivative work. So in both cases, you're breaking the Creative Commons.
Yeah.
So they took it down.
Yeah, and it's important that you include that because of those kinds of things. Because this is like the internet's a wild environment, and people will figure out ways to combine your stuff into something else and try to monetize it, or steal it and say it's their own. And in the case of some music, someone will take a song. Oh well, there's this song said so and so, but I'm going to rename it this and put it out there because I want to try and get into that stream or whatever, which does happen.
So if you upload something with an ad, is that okay?
It's fine. It's what it is. At the end of the day, it's just a transmission medium. Whatever the payload is, whatever your package is up to you. You can have ads in it. You could put up a television show that you stole off TV. But if you want to work in the environment and do the best that you can do to share it, if it makes sense, if that's what your show is, then that's what your show is.
My risk really is I do those three things. I put up something with an ad, and what he mentioned was my risk is tracking down guys who mash it up below the ad and maybe you can collect money for it or whatever.
Yes, but it's the same risk you would have posting it on your site. It's the same risk of exposing it in an RSS feed as a file. You don't know where it goes. All I'm saying is here's a marketplace of over 1 million people who are looking for content and a media landscape that is driving a lot of interest into that content or into that direction. And there's nobody doing it. Like before, it sounds crazy to say, before last week when I started doing all this, when I was doing my research for this session, I had all this stuff like tech stuff. It didn't matter. The reality is nobody's using peer-to-peer networking properly. We're using RSS feeds, and really we should have our content in that environment too. And we have an option now, and sites that are willing to vet it and put it up there and host it that are free. So we should be using it, and that's what got me into doing this. Because in the end, you don't know where it goes. If it's on your site, you can see the statistics on it. But when you put it up into a torrent, other sites go and scrape or take that RSS feed and post it on their sites. And when I was talking earlier about the Google juice of your content, if you're doing some kind of SEO-friendly stuff with the titles of your content, if you're doing SEO-friendly stuff with your comments or your byline or your description of the file, you're already doing the 90% of the work to get the Google juice of people discovering it. You're putting it into another environment where other people are going to send it out, reshare it, redistribute it. So it gets aggregated again. So for very little work that work you've already done, you've now got it to another environment that other people are going to get again republished and re-Google juice it, which gives you more strength. It's ridiculous, and that's the nature of the environment. That's what the torrent environment is. And that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got for you guys. It's a very short thing, and I wanted to answer questions because there's so much there, and there's so much that can be figured out, and we're here to figure it out.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned how you put it up, it was featured. How do you get it featured? How does it decide?
When you log into these sites as a user, because you are vetting your content, it's in their best interest to feature it in order to combat your site hosts wares or your site hosts content that is already copyrighted. It's in all of their best interest to host stuff that's been vetted, so they all feature it. And it sounds crazy. Do the research of at least trying to find stuff. Like pick your favorite show, pick your favorite whatever, and go into Mininova or go into IsoHunt or Pirate Bay and just see what's out there. I'll tell you, there's a lot of bad stuff out there. There's virus stuff, there's porn, there's copyright material, but there's so much room for the good stuff because we're already making it, so we might as well put it into it. Yeah.
Speaking of the bad stuff, using those sites here, Mininova that they use, do they drop spyware, malware?
No.
LimeWire used to do way back then?
No, and that's actually a really good question. Yeah.
I know it's just for copyright, but it's all of those nasty stuff like this.
Both? Okay, well, Views.com requires you to download their Azure client. But what I like about Mininova, and that's the only reason why I'm like hardcore awesome on Mininova, is Mininova lets you upload it. So you don't have to have anything on your computer. You don't have to own any software. You don't have to download LimeWire or any of the other spyware software, because there is a problem on the client side with people having these torrent clients being muddled with spyware. Yeah.
Just as a point of clarification for that, Azure is not View's client; it's an open source torrent client. I mean, if you're adept at it, you can really look at the source code and make sure that there's nothing. But it's a peer-reviewed product. There are closed-off BitTorrent clients that could potentially have it, but look at user reviews of any sort of software site, and you'll find what are the popular clients people are using, and you'll find ones that are maybe suspect that you shouldn't be using.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Like, we've got Wikipedia. Like, I don't have the brain power of the internet. If you're not familiar or comfortable or aware of some of the stuff brought up with peer-to-peer networking or torrent files or these websites, go on Wikipedia and spend a little bit of time, because it starts to become pretty apparent what's legit and what isn't legit. And yeah, there's LimeWire, there's a whole bunch of them that are not legitimate. The reason, again, I can't stress enough, the reason why I like Mininova is I upload it to their site and they do it. I like Views.com because they use the Azure's client, and again, I upload it to their site and they do whatever, they do all the work. There are other systems that are out there. I shelve them and don't use them because from personal experience, they are mostly riddled with spyware. Yeah. Yeah.
Good question. So, okay, you're doing the music.
I do a video podcast,
That
actually.
may be of more interest to people. What type of content do you think wouldn't work or not work?
Well, it's actually really funny that you should say that. I was talking with Mark about his show, which is scrapbooking. And his audience is mostly women who are stay-at-home moms who scrapbook. And they might not be the most technology-savvy people, but their husbands are. And again, I'm not saying it's a general. I'm not saying it's a general thing.
Apologize now.
I know.
Oh, you're in trouble. So that say my husband found the show for me, and they'll say my husband found this or he found this, and that's up to you. But now that I'm here, I really enjoyed the show, and how does it work?
And that's what you're trying to do. Like,
I think maybe skewed to an older age group.
well, I have 2 stepdaughters, and they watch and work and live in MSN, Facebook, these various types of sites like porn sites and video player sites. If your age group isn't in that area, it might not be in your best interest to focus a lot of energy to it. But if you're trying to grow your audience and get it in front of the most people possible, then that's where you want to go. And it might not make sense. I'm agnostic to technology. Like, as much as I talk about this, if the audience isn't there, why invest any time into it?
So when it's getting propagated, and, you load it and they do the work, is it always getting propagated to another torrent site?
It's propagated to their site, and other torrent sites scrape it somehow through RSS feed or whatever.
It wouldn't end up in the conventional website.
It might. The thing I find interesting, and I think we're going to see this happen over the next couple of years, is people are going to start taking RSS feeds and finding new ways to mash them up. And for all we know, it might end up on a website. It might end up as one promotion that I did. I spent a lot of time figuring out ways to get content in front of people who appreciate it. So I had a client who was looking to get an album out, and I went onto Hype Machine, which is a website for music fans, and they aggregate tons of other music blogs. And I put together a list of 50 blogs, and I said, here are a bunch of blogs. Here's the person who owns them, their name, their email address. All you have to do is send whatever press release you want to them, because I didn't want to actually do the work, because I'm not into spamming like that. I said, here's all the information, go to town. And they did that, and their stuff started showing up on it in that environment, because all they did was aggregate the people who they thought mattered, and it got onto their sites, which eventually got into an aggregator that aggregated all their blogs. So you don't know. I don't know, but I don't get it further out there. The main objective is how do you get your media further out there. So, yeah.
Something I've noticed with these sites is they're splattered with ads. Is there any danger of being affiliated to sites who have these ads?
Well, it's a comfort level. Personally, those ads hardly even register in my mind anymore. And I think a lot of people who use the internet a lot find that they ignore them. But if you're concerned with that, stay with more like sites like Views. Views doesn't have ads. Mininova and other aggregators and other torrent sites, obviously, you can't control it. It's out there. But it's the same thing with, if you go into Google and you type a word in Google, there are ads there. They might not be pornographic ads, but there are ads there. It's the internet. You can't really beat it. So, I don't know. It's a personal thing. To me, the main objective is to get it in front of as many people as possible. If there are ads there, it's a win or lose. Who cares? It's there.
Go back to the last slide, perhaps.
Yeah. And what I'll do is after this weekend, I'll take this whole slideshow, which is very simple, and put it up in my blog, and then put comments or explanations below it. And you're welcome to check it out on alex7.ca. So that way it's there, because this is the kind of stuff that, like when I first got into podcasting 2 years ago, I got into podcasting because I had to work on a project where we were making a television application that referenced iTunes. Basically, it was a television remote player for iTunes. And they're like, you got to do this thing called podcasting. And it uses RSS feeds. I spent all my time figuring it out, and I got really jazzed about it and realized that this is a democratization of technology that allows anyone to access anyone on the net. And when I discovered that and got into it, I was freaking out. I thought it was awesome. I feel like we're at that same stage in the peer-to-peer networking torrent area that it's just before people realize it is just a utility. And as soon as everyone realizes that, everything's going to go on. Because right now you got the media saying, oh, copyright material's on there. It's only because they're the dominant content. But as more content like this shows up, you're going to see aggregators that are going to grow say, we are aggregators of just torrents of free material. Or like, you've got the Internet Archive, right? The Internet Archive is a huge resource of stuff that people have given away for free. And over time, it's shown its value in mass because of that. To the point now that you can't lose it. Like, it'll never die. People value it. And the same with the peer-to-peer technology. That as we aggregate our content in there, it will have value as much as that, as much as RSS, as much as anything out there. It's a technology. It's worth using. So there you go. Any more questions? Any thoughts? Any favorite torrents? Anything we should download?
Linux distributions.
But some, yeah.
What distribution?
Linux distributions, operating system. So,
Absolutely.
and you know that's free software. It's legal for download, and honestly, that's the best way to do it. Is the peer-to-peer. Download an an image of the DVD, and you're good to go.
Yeah. And then everything should be that way. There you go. And feel free, email me.